excited to catch up with Benjamin Scales, what life's been like in the last little while, and then just sort of unpack your story a bit more. So thank you.
My companies are dedicated to continuing education. We bring in college students to work with us. Education is a cornerstone of our foundation. Back in 1989, I graduated from high school in 1984, and I went to the University of Kentucky directly after high school. I got the first few years of college done, and I was well into my third year when my academics went off the rails. And I made all of the mistakes that a lot of kids make. And so in 1989, I was asked to leave the university and put on academic suspension because my grades were so bad. It really did affect me. I moved past it, but it was always there. Through the years, I got into the roofing industry and I moved here to Texas. I'm actually in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas now. And through that process of earning the credentials, which took a couple of years to do everything that needed to be done. After I completed those credentials, it occurred to me that maybe it's not too late for me to go back to school. Turns out they have a specialized program called Project Graduate. I had to write a letter of how my life has changed and why I'm a better student now, which I thought was hilarious. After 30 years, they were still asking me to write a letter. There's a whole cadre of students that were in similar boat that I was in. The oldest person in one of my classes was 63.
Wow.
Inevitably, after the first few classes, I would see familiar names. It was entertaining to interact with my instructors because I had the tendency to manage them. The whole return to college and the whole return to complete my degree, the classroom part was only a part of the education. My statistics class is directly helping me with my business and forecasting. It's been tremendous. It really has. It was an enormous amount of work, just like anything else, but it has been fulfilling beyond measure. I didn't need that to prove my worth to anybody other than myself, that this is a task that I failed at and I needed to make it right. I needed to complete it for myself because I was just dogged tired of carrying the burden.
Go back to when you were 19 or roughly around that time to that critical point and say something to yourself. What would you say?
I would be very hard with myself. The impossible task was carrying the burden of failure for 30 years. Completing 14 more classes back then is an easy task. And yet I'm working with attorneys, I'm working with CPAs, I'm working with architects, engineers. As a matter of fact, I graduated with a 4.0 grade point average. I used to smoke. I used to drink. I got very, very sick. And I don't know whether I had the flu or what I had, but it really knocked me down. And so what I did was I substituted running and riding my bike and being outdoors for those activities. I had a friend of mine say that I should enter a half marathon just to see how it went. And I did, and I wound up beating him. And he was an athlete. I could go, maybe 6-7 miles an hour, and I could do it for 15 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours straight. I replace bad habits with good habits. Every now and then I see through LinkedIn and other networks, roofers that may have questions, but we're there to help the roofer too. And so if there was anyone out there that needed help and had a question, but wasn't sure where to turn, obviously I'll put myself out there for a phone call or an email.